Hello, everyone. It is April 4th, 2019. My name is Kim M. Clark, and I am starting my Aspiring Authors webinar. I have one of my guests, Christine. Hi, lady. She's joining us today from Florida as well. We're going to be talking about aspiring authors and how you, as aspiring authors, can do three things. Can write your book, can publish your book, and how to market your book. Well, the three things you need, whether you are a traditionally published author or you want to publish or you don't even know where to start. That's what my goal is, to give you my information and my knowledge I have gleaned for the last 4.5 years on this webinar. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Thank you for your patience. Great, I have you all there. Great. Okay, let's go down here. Great. As most of you know, my name is Kim Clark. I have an MBA from marketing in Johns Hopkins University. I have a bachelor's in science and mass communication from Towson State University. My husband and I have owned multiple businesses. I'm a former and recovering marketing college instructor. I'm a publisher of Deep Waters books. It's my publishing company I own. I'm an award-winning author of Deep Waters, Lift Your Gaze, and I'm the CEO and founder of Lift Your Gaze Ministry. And that's where I take my message of hope from my book and also from my speaking and bring it to people in crisis, especially those in the prison system. The three components I'm going to be going over today on this webinar are writing, how to write a book, conceptualize, how to get it, how to figure out what you want to say, and then how to write it in a way that people will actually want to read it. The different types of publishing, and the different marketing, ways to market. Regardless of how you go with publishing, whether traditionally or with a independent or you publish on your own, you're going to have to learn marketing, and that's so important. We're going to be going over just an overview on all these. Try to make this end in 45 minutes. If you have additional questions, you can always message me, text me, or email me. My text is 302-275-5309. That number again is 302-275-5309. Or you can email me, and I'll have this information at the end as well. And it's kim@kimmclark.com. Again, that's kim@kimmclark.com. So to kind of dive into the writing area, for some tips for you, you should have your book, regardless of what it is, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, devotion, there's so many genres. I always suggest, what's the one word you want your reader to come away, the main message? If you could distill it down to one word, what would that be? And that one word needs to permeate throughout your entire written work. For me, mine is hope. And when the Lord spoke to me and said, I want you to take your message of hope in the prison system, I knew exactly what he meant. He meant my book, because that's what my message is on hope. Also, your chapter, for example, you might have different words that you felt like, I want to go deeper into hope. And each chapter, you want to have that come out. Okay, this is the chapter on faith to bring hope. Or this is the chapter on what's our response. Whatever you want to convey, think about it in one word, and that kind of word or message should permeate that chapter and your book. That's a great way to kind of distill your thoughts and as you're writing. I wish I had this knowledge when I started, because for me, I did not come out of the womb writing. Those who've read my book know this was a challenge for me. God used me, and if he could use me, he could use you to write this book, write your book, or write whatever he's calling you to do. But it's pretty amazing once you start conceptualizing it. Okay, I want just one word. What's the main message? Another area that's really powerful, once you get this, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it'll really transform your writing. You want to show and don't tell. You want to immerse the reader into all their senses are involved. For example, you want to make sure they can see what you see, smell what you smell, hear what you've heard, Even taste what you've tasted. If you're talking about food, you want them to feel it, because readers read to escape. They read for knowledge and also to escape. So for example, I gave an example, it rained, or perhaps it was raining. Showing would be the wet, fat raindrops splattered on my forehead in defiance to my prayers for a sunny day. That gives you so much more information. That sentence, they both say the same thing. It was raining in both sentences. But the second one where you're showing the wet, fat raindrops. You're showing that I had prayed for a sunny day. And I'm kind of a little perturbed that I don't have a sunny day. It's raining and I really needed a sunny day. Be even more if you explained it, maybe it was on my wedding day, or maybe it was on my graduation day. You could give so much information that could convey to the reader so much in a short sentence. And that's what your words want to do. You want to make sure you're showing and not telling. Also that you're doing it in a succinct way. You don't want it that you're taking chapters and chapters to say it rained. And one coach actually explained to me, or one teacher explained to me, what if I gave you $1 if you took out every word that wasn't necessary? And I think that's important, because we can get either we're showing too much, we're telling too much, or we're getting too verbose. There's both sides of the spectrum. We want to make sure that we're not on both sides. And that's just a great tip on how to write. I wish I knew that. I rewrote my whole book several times. And this was one of the reasons why, because I was doing a lot of telling and not a lot of showing. There's also for fiction, if you want to do fiction or nonfiction. For example, for nonfiction in my book, I start each chapter with an anecdote. And I did it with, again, showing and not telling. But you want to kind of bring in the reader. They love that. Also, always start with a dialogue, short dialogue, or some type of hook to bring the reader in. That's great for fiction. And one of my wonderful teachers that I learned from, and amazing authors, said, do you ever notice that when you're reading fiction, if there's a lot of short dialogue in the start of each chapter, you get hooked in? I said, I know, I do that all the time. I'll say, oh, it's just a short little part, and I'll keep reading. And what do you know? I am powering through the entire book, and I don't sleep that night. That's a great way if you're writing fiction. So those are just two great little tips you can kind of practice. And you should start with that, because again, I had to do a rewrite with this as well on my nonfiction. I had to do an anecdote at the start of each chapter, which is a complete rewrite. So I was pretty exhausted. For me, writing a book was like running a marathon. And then when I wrote it, I gave it to other authors and other coaches, and they had said, okay, this is great. You need to go back and rerun your marathon and rewrite the book doing this. So I'm hoping at the front end, if you're at the front end, these little tips can help you to start with. Number one, obviously conceptualize your message down to one word. Number two, show, don't tell. Be descriptive, but don't be overly descriptive. Don't use a lot of adverbs, a lot of words that end in ly. You want to try to make it their action verbs and try to bring people in. Also, start with an anecdote. If you're doing nonfiction or fiction, create a dialogue hook. These are very important ways to kind of start. You don't have to do a huge rewrite, which you might have to do anyway, but this would might kind of cap that learning cycle, that learning curve for you a little bit, kind of shorten that, which is one of my goals today. Another awesome tip that helped me tremendously is join a critique group. Word Weavers is the one I use. I used a different one when I was in PA. They didn't have a Word Weavers chapter up there, but you can do one online as well. You can create one online. Webinars are great to use. You can go to Word Weavers meetings or other critique groups. They are so important to get your work seen and get other people's perspective on your work, especially if they're seasoned published authors. Word Weavers does a great job. It's a Christian critique group, which is what my genre I write is Christian, but you want to make sure that they're solid. Number two, they always sandwich constructive criticism. I've been in groups where people just unload their payload of personal hurt on you and your book, and that's not helpful. So you always want to sandwich constructive criticism with encouragement. You always want it to be constructive. If you have personal feelings, you feel a need to share them, preface them with, this is my personal thought. It might not be everyone's, but here's how it kind of hit me. But you want to be very clear and constructive criticism, and always sandwich that between two encouragements. I really liked how you phrase this topic. You're a really good storyteller. You just need help on your sentence structure, and that can be easily done with an editor or someone. You keep coming to these critique groups. And the third point about a critique group is you could always create your own if you can't find one. You want to make sure you're employing that constructive criticism, and keep the group small, probably 3 to 5 people. 5 is your max. You want to have, if you want to create your own, you want to have 1,500 words, and you get a word count on Word. You can just go under the review section and hit word count. Double space your text. Use Times Roman or very simple or easy font. And then put line numbers. Line numbers are very easy when someone is critiquing your work. It's much easier to say on line 62, you had a duplicate word, as opposed to on the second paragraph of page 2, which might be different on some people's pages. You want to print it out for people. And if you're doing it live, I like it where Write reads it out loud. You want someone to read out loud your text. When you read it out loud, that is huge. And here's a great takeaway for today. If you are writing your own, in the review tab on Word, there's a read out loud button. Have it read out loud to you, because autocorrect could be perfect, but you could have used the wrong word, and autocorrect could have transferred the word you wanted to use into another word, which would have been spelled correctly, but still as you're reading it, you're like, oh, I didn't want, that's not the word I wanted in there. That's very powerful. Before you bring this to a critique group, make sure you use read out loud button in Word. That's very, very helpful. And then if the right person reads it out loud, you can see where they stumble, where it's difficult for them, where it's kind of awkward as they're reading what you wrote. And then the left would start their critique. I have corrects here, but it's really critique. And they would start reading their critiques and their suggestions. Again, always sandwich your constructive criticism. And remember, this is their baby. This is something they've worked tremendously hard on. You want to be kind, you want to be encouraging, but you want to also be truthful. So in a critique group, kind of set that as the standard, especially if you're starting your own, that we want it to be encouraging, but truthful, but helpful. Now, when you're writing, always look at your competition. What's your top selling books that you would compete with yours on Amazon? Look at them. Look at how they have their cover. Look at how they pull up the sample chapters, read them, read their table of contents. Look at every aspect of them. What's one thing that each one does well? What do you want to do well? Again, so figure out your genre. What exactly is it? Self-help? Is it Bible study? Is it nonfiction, historical nonfiction? Look at all those and look how they compete with yours on Amazon. Just pull them all up, read the chapter samples. And again, look at what one thing does well, which also one thing they don't do well. You need to research what's currently published, what your competition's doing. You need to research and know it well. You also need to know and be able to conceptualize and speak of this. What makes your book different? Why does it stand out? For example, for my book, Deep Waters Lift Your Gaze, it's very unique in every book I've researched out there on self-help, that it combines reformed, solid biblical doctrine and also prophetic or charismatic dimension. It has prophetic words in each chapter. No other books out there has that. That's very unique in the Bible study genre as well as in the self-help genre. Most of them are just it can be very much biblically based, which are excellent. But for me, I feel like, wow, this is really deep and really difficult to read. I feel like I'm eating a very great tasting but dry piece of bread. I need more of that charismatic dimension. And there's other books in the genre I have read that are very charismatic, but biblically they're not supported. And I'm wondering, I'm in the middle there. So my book is unique in that aspect. And that's what you need to figure out. Your book needs to be unique. You need to pray about that. God, how do you want my book to be unique? How do you want to stand out? Why is it unique? You need to also be able to know that, be able to verbally give that to people and say, what makes editors and publishers will ask you, what makes your book unique? What makes it stand out? And you need to be able to have that in one sentence down. You need to know your value proposition. Why should a consumer buy your book over yours or over others? What's your value proposition? For me, it's a book that helps people who are struggling in trials lift their gaze to God. And I can tell them it works. It's helped me tremendously. Every time I've read this book, it seems like I have edited this book over and over again. We walk through a trial. It's so powerful. It works. For me, I'm thinking as I'm reading this book, maybe these words were just for me. They're so powerful. But it needs to help you as well as other people you're sharing it with. When you're writing a book, you need to have all the books that you have, either go to the library or get a huge stack of similar published books to yours on your desk. You can use them as reference. And you can look at them and go, okay, I like what they did here. What can I do to make it better? Or how can I make my book more appealing? That's why it's really important for you as you're doing that, is to have that reference book, have an entire stack out there. And you're looking, how did they do? How did they cite biblical sources? How did they do maybe it's devotional? How did they do devotionals? I'm writing a devotional. I have at least 10 devotionals on my desk that I'm looking at to help me move forward. Editors. Oh, God bless editors. If you are writing a book, you need an editor. There's developmental editing, which is what I do, which I've started that there. That's where you're, okay, I'm looking at this. I don't really know how to conceptually put what I feel God's moving in my heart to write into a document, into a written form. How do I do that? Great question. That's where I would help you. You can send over your ideas, your outline, your manuscript. I would help you get what your thoughts, funnel it down into something succinct so you have an outline. You want to start with an outline. Also, manuscript evaluation. Okay, I have my manuscript. It's written. I have my outline. I've written it all down. Now I need someone to look over it. That's what I do as well. And I could do that on a consulting basis. And then, okay, great. I have the thought process down. My manuscript evaluator or editor has helped me move chapters around, help my book flow better, help it just make sense. Okay, I need some line editing and copy editing. Most of you can get that done together. And most of the time, most editors will do them together. That's looking for grammar, run-on sentences, looking for some things that are correct grammatically as well as correct for publication. I've had my book, just to give you an example, before I had mine copy edited, I had my book looked over by several people who were excellent at grammar. A college composition professor, a grammar teacher, and then several other people have looked over it. When I sent it to copy editing, as I paid for copy editing, my 300-page book came back with over 5,000 edits. And that's actually having several people look over it who are really good at this. There are a lot of people say, oh, just get someone good at grammar. No, grammar is great, but that's just a start. You need what's correct for publication as well. Which brings me to the next point, is typesetting. The 2 pages, when you open a book, there are 2 pages. Those 2 pages is a document, is actually a graphic. That needs to be done beautifully. All this needs to be done and set. The typesetting editor. You can publish your grocery list on Amazon. But if you want a really good book, you want to make sure it's formatted beautifully. And there's editors who do that. It's worth every penny, and you're going to need to have that done. Because what's correct, there's something called widows and orphans, where you might have one word on the next page. In publication, that's incorrect. Or there's so many things that you have to look at. That's why you have a typesetter or a formatting editor. There's also, when that's done, you want someone to look over it, give it a final proofread. Sometimes the same copy editor can do that, or you can have someone else do that to make sure there's no errors. There's no, to make sure you're on the top of each page, your headings match the chapter, the page numbers are incorrect. All that needs to be looked over. It's an incredible process. I felt like I was pregnant for 4 years working on this, and it's tremendous. You really want to make sure you have someone to help you proofread. And the next is book shepherding. I call this just marketing. How do I get my book out there? You can have written the most amazing book on the planet, but if you don't have someone to help you, or you don't know how to get it out there to tell people about it, no one will read it, no one will buy it. And you really want your work to help other people. That's the whole goal of this. You want this to get it out for marketing. So you definitely need editors. I suggest hiring them. Again, I'm very helpful with developmental editing, manuscript evaluation, and book shepherding and marketing. I am not helpful on line editing, copy editing, typesetting, and proofreading. I farm that out. I make sure that I have great experts in the industry, so I subcontract that out. If you do go with me to publish, I will help you on those 3 out of the 6, but the other 3, I will take care of all that, make sure it's done for you. But you do need to make sure all aspects of this is done and done correctly. To look on the second area, remember we're looking at writing, publishing, and marketing. The second area is publishing. The first way is traditional. This is considered usually the gold standard, but not so much anymore. A lot of the top-selling books are actually independently published or self-published. I prefer to separate independently published and self-publishing, and I'll talk a little about that later. But traditionally published is where you go with a traditional editor. You have very low returns. You can get an advance. Most first-time publishers do not. You need a literary agent, which will be splitting your profit with, or not splitting or sharing, I should say, your profits with your literary agent. Your returns are much lower. You lose control of the book, and you lose the book's rights. You've, in essence, worked really hard, written all this stuff down, and given your baby away. They say, yeah, I don't like this title. Yeah, I don't like this. We're doing away with all this. This is good. You've kind of like given your baby away, and they're like, yep, that haircut doesn't work. That dress doesn't work. And yet we're piercing the ears. We're changing everything. So just so you know, some people are okay with that. And also, just so you know, if you get an advance, this is very interesting. People say, oh, I want a $10,000 advance, a $20,000 advance. Don't take the advance, because what happens is you have to sell that much in books, and usually you're making much less per book if you get an advance. So let's say if someone gives you a $10,000 advance, you might make 70 cents a book. You have to sell, goodness, if my math is right, 10,000, that's almost 70,000 copies for you even get your first 70 cents to get your first royalty check. So you have to be very careful. I hope I did that math right. If I didn't, please forgive me. But you need to sell $10,000 worth of profit in your books before you start getting your first royalty check. So just be careful of that. That's a huge downfall. And if you don't sell that many books, guess what? You're being sued by the publishing company. So just, that's a misnomer. And I want to just make sure that's clear out there. Because I've gotten many contracts, many traditional publishers who want to publish my books. I looked at them and I turned them down as a businesswoman going, that doesn't make a lot of sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. So example, you do all the work, the publisher makes the money, and for a very small, and they actually, for promotions, traditional publishers have a very small budget for first-time authors. For example, a friend of mine who was the president of Thomas Nelson Publishing, the vice president of Thomas Nelson Publishing, his budget for the entire pool of all first-time authors was $10,000 for all of them. For marketing, that was his budget, $10,000 for all the first-time authors. All the marketing is given to proven, time-tested authors. So just so you know, if you go traditional publishing, you're going to have to do all the marketing on your own. You might not even get $500 in marketing. And it's a very long process. where you can get published with someone like me as a kind of a boutique publisher or a hybrid publisher. For me, it might, depending on if it's done, your manuscript is done, it could be 6 months. For traditional publisher, it could be 18 months to 2 years. So just so you know, it takes a lot longer with a traditional publisher. I have authors who go with traditional publisher with some of their books, but do self-published or do independent publishing for some of the other ones. And they'll tell you the same thing. It takes 18 months to 2 years to get it traditionally published. But if you self or independent publish, it goes much faster. Now, this is the self-publishing industry. This is the second, I guess, leg of the publishing industry. This is called actually subsidy publishing. This is actually very expensive. You'll see a lot of these publishing companies out there. A lot of times Christian publishers will have a subsidy publishing arm to them. Thomas Nelson does this. Westbow. There's a lot of them out there that do that. They have very high upfront fees. It might cost you several to $10,000 to publish one book. Your increased cost per book is very high. And you actually can get a substandard product. I've seen so many subsidy published books that are actually not well published and not well done. You do have some control. And I've been given books by people who have gone through subsidy publishing, and I'm saying, my goodness, the errors in here are astounding. You need to either republish this, or you need to do you can do a second edition, or you can do another reprint. But these are all, you need to clean this up. I can't tell you how many of those I've seen. You do still retain your rights, which is very good. The process can be much shorter. But again, from what I've seen, for example, to buy an ISBN number, to buy just one, which is what you need is on the back of your book, you need an ISBN number. To buy it on your own, it costs $125. To buy it with through a subsidy publishing company, $500. So, for example, their fees are so much higher than what you could do either on your own or through like a hybrid or a boutique publisher such as myself. Indie publishing or independent publishing is what I've done. I've created my own publishing company. I can help you create your own publishing company, or I can publish through my publishing company, Deep Waters Books. You own the company. You have control. You retain all the rights. That is huge. You can get higher returns. Your 70 cents a book is normally normal for traditional publishing. Depending on your pricing, you can get, $7 to $20 a book, depending on your pricing and how much it costs. You control the process, but again, you can also create something like that's not really good and get it out there. So you want to make sure you're at least consulting with someone who has knowledge of the industry. You're getting it professionally edited. Please, if you do this and you don't publish with me, great, more power to you. Just get it professionally edited and professionally laid out, professionally typeset. That's so important. That's only mine, because you really, especially if you're in Christian publishing, if you're publishing something that has God, the name of Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit in it, you're representing him. You want this to be exceptional. You want it to be amazing. And that's something that's so powerful. That's one author convicted me on. I said, well, can I just get this out and publish, then do a second edition or do a reprint? And she had said, Kim, no, if it has the name of Christ on it, you don't want to publish anything substandard. You don't want any of those even out there. That decreases your brand. And people look at that and go, oh, but she wrote this. This is horrible. So that's so important to have a really good product. You want to make sure your product is exceptional, especially if you're writing a Christian publishing or you're writing for God, because it bears his name. And that's so important. Publishing, the great thing now is you can do print on demand. You don't have to get these things published, as you can go with subsidy publishing. Most of them will have you buy several hundred, several thousand copies, and you keep all these in your garage, which you have to worry about mold, you have to worry about damage for moisture, all the kids playing baseball. Or get a unit, a storage unit. That is just ridiculous how much, because your costs are so much lower if you buy in bulk. I don't recommend going that route at all with subsidy publishing. If you do print on demand, which is what I do. I can buy them at author cost, which is what the same price I would buy them for if I got them printed in high quantities. So there's no reason to go anything other than print on demand. You can go with Kindle Direct, formerly Create Space, that funnels into Amazon. You can do paperback and ebook, that's Kindle, and you can get Amazon distribution, both globally or just domestically, just the United States or the whole world. There's also Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark does hardcover, paperbacks, and ebooks. Does it with the M.S.B. That format through ebooks is M.S.B. This can go into all major book retailers, both brick and mortar, which is your stores, or through or online, Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million, etc. They all can get copies of your book. Make sure it is returnable. If you do that, and again, I can help you with that. If you want to set that up, I can do consulting work, and I can help you get all that set up just very easily. If you want to go independently publishing, which is I recommend you do that, whether you do it through me or you do it through your own label. You want to create a budget. Depending on your book, your budget between $2,000 and $5,000 for each book, depending on the page numbers, the size of the book, whether it's color inside or outside, any illustrations, all those, the type of paper, all those come in create your budget. Kindle Direct and Ingram Spark both have calculators, can tell you how much your book will cost, if it's so many pages, and what size it is. You're going to want to know that industry standard. Again, that's something that can help you with consulting wise. Cover design. You're going to need a cover design for print and for electronic. They're different. You're going to need that. And also there's a different cover design for hardcover and for paperback. You're going to need to know all that. You're going to need to get editors, again, for conceptualizing this, to make sure it all flows, it makes sense. Copy, content, and typesetting. I can help you with the content and the marketing as well, but you're going to definitely need copy and typesetting editors. You're going to also want to get your book registered with the Library of Congress, and you can do that with that website. You're going to need called a pre-assigned control number, and that's and a CIP, or catalog of publication. You can get that at the Library of Congress. You're going to need that if you want to get this at any library. You do want this in libraries. You're going to want to copyright your manuscript. You want to do that before it's printed, so you don't have to send a live copy. You can send in just an electronic version. It costs $35. You definitely want to copyright. You own this. You've created this. You've made this. You want to copyright this. You're going to need to get an ISBN. You can get those at myidentifiers.com. Each format needs one, meaning if you publish a hardcover, that needs a different ISBN number than a paperback book. You don't need it for most ebooks, but some of them you do. But you're gonna need them several. They do offer discounts. Sign up with My Identifiers, and you can get them at cheaper prices. They do have sales and specials and promotions. Ask an industry expert to review and endorse your manuscript. This is huge. Before you finish, send this out. Ask 50 people. You might get 5 back. You really want to send this out and say, look, first ask them, would you please read and review and endorse my manuscript, my book, if you agree with it? Some people will say, I'll endorse it only if I agree with it. I'm not going to endorse something I don't agree with, which is perfectly fine. You want to release them and say, yes, absolutely. You want to just send this out, follow up with them, and actually get your endorsements printed on your book. That's so important. You're going to need that. You're going to need that for your Amazon, for getting it up on online retailers, for your website, for the back cover of your book. You're going to need endorsements. Those are so important. You're going to make a list of industry experts that can help you. You're going to definitely need, these are things you'll need to be, things you're going to need to be thinking about. Marketing, the last component. You thought you were done now. No, this is just when the work starts. You've published the book, you've given birth. It's kind of like parenting. You still need to market it. You still need a parent. Start now. Even if you're in the conception phase of, I don't know how to do this, start now. Post on social media. Update on your progress. Ask for prayers. I feel like the Lord's giving me a book. Please pray for me. I have no idea what I'm doing. Ask for, go to Bible studies, ask for prayer, start going to conferences, writers' conferences. This is huge. I have a huge list of those. You can text me and email me. I can give you those. Sign up for all of those. That is huge. Do social media. Create an author page. Do Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Goodreads, YouTube. Hootsuite is great because you can post there and actually schedule that out on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter and get all that out. Goodreads is a social media platform where people read. That's huge. Get out there. Start friending people. Get a presence out there. Create your own public image page on both Facebook and Instagram. Get that out there. And make sure you're using hashtags. Please pray for me. Whatever hashtag you want to use, make sure you're doing that on all these. This is really important too. Have more followers following you than you follow. You want to make sure that you're creating, this is a great place to do test market. Okay, here's a thought that I'm doing. What do you think of this chapter? What do you think of this quote? Or get those out there. Involve your followers. That is very important. You want to post 3 times a week to provide value. Even before or even afterwards. You should post, do memes, do blog posts, do vlogs, Facebook Lives, webinars, events, live and virtual. You want to have people having author signing events, posting, go to Barnes and Nobles, getting author signing events. You want to create memes that people repost your memes, ask them to share them. You want to provide value all the time. Also, MailChimp, you're going to email stuff out even after you're done publishing. You're going to keep promoting. You want to keep having that, keep being relevant, keep being live, and make sure that's continued to go out there. Also, when you publish your book, enter every contest available. Goodness, I actually won 2 awards. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm a finalist for the SALO Award 2019. That's not announced yet. That'll be announced in May. But I won the Florida Tapestry Award, which is huge. I didn't think my book would win. What do I know? I put it in there, won for nonfiction. Wow, huge. I am now an award-winning author. How did that happen? God. God help me. He helped me, he can help you. But enter all contests, especially afterwards. And if you do win it, put that on your cover. Get your cover redesigned and put that up there. And now blast that all over social media. Do press releases. Celebrate this. This is a huge accomplishment if you've won an award. Use that big time. Here's another great, really good, some marketing ideas, some really solid ones. Buy your name as a domain name. www.kimmclark.com. That's mine. If you can't get your name, add your middle initial, but don't make it difficult. Make it really simple that people can find you. www.janedoe.com or .org or .net or something. You can go to GoDaddy.com and get those, or I use www.oneand1.com. That's www, the number 1, the word and, the number 1.com. That's where I get all mine. Get the name. If you have a name for your book, if you're published, get that as a domain name. Get something close to it too. For example, I have Deep Waters, liftyourgaze.com, .org, .net. Buy them all. They're important for you to have so people can easily find you. You're also, even if you're in the starting stages, you're going to create a website. So where you're going to post your blog on them. WordPress has them. I use One-and-One. Again, I can help you with consulting with that, help you get that up, and help you work on that. You're going to start a blog. Yay. This is a lot of work, but it's worth it. You're going to need to post thoughts. You're going to have to post weekly and bi-monthly, or sometimes even post several times a week to create that out there, to get a following on there. You're going to post that on your website, post that in social media. A vlog is a video blog. You can even do video of your blog. Some people prefer reading. Some people prefer visually and hearing your video log. Either way, you want to do that weekly as a minimal, bi-monthly, sometimes even several times a week to promote your brand, which is you and your blog. MailChimp is a great way to get yourself out there. You want an email distribution list, start gathering all those. You want to start emailing people out. And you can put your blog posts in there as well, or your social media posts, your memes. Great place. If you're published or non-published, you need to start this today. This is something I do at every time I possibly can, is a SWOT analysis. I'm trying to move this over here. Great. SWOT analysis, do this on your book. This is now your business. You are now an entrepreneur. You're an author or an aspiring author. You want to do your internal, what's your strengths and weakness of your book? Your strengths is it's unique in this way. Your weaknesses is, I might not know how to write real well. I'm learning biblical knowledge. I don't even know where to start. Those are your weakness of you as an author. If you don't have your book yet, you can do this as you as an author. Your strengths might be, I believe I have a compelling and strong message. I believe I have a story that needs to be told. Externally, what are the opportunities? What are the threats? Opportunity might be there's nothing out there like this. There's nothing out there that combines what God's given me. For example, for my book, as I told you, it's unique in that it combines solid biblical teaching as well as a charismatic dimension of prophetic words or prophetic poems. That's not out there. I haven't found it out there. Threats. What's your competition? Do they have the market? For example, if you're writing on suffering, everyone told me that market is so saturated. Don't write on that. I wrote on it anyway, sold lots of books, and won several awards. If God's calling you to do this, he will see you through. Again, if you need help on this, I can help you do a SWOT analysis. I do this on every business I'm in or every book I write or myself as being an author. It's really important to know what's out there and what are your strengths and weaknesses, and externally, what are the opportunities and threats of the marketplace? Brand marketing strategy. This is huge for marketing. You want to know your objective. What's your objective with your book? Why are you writing this? Is it to help people or to just impart knowledge? Why are you writing this? What's your background? What's the background on the book? What are some insights in the current situation? Is there a national tragedy, or are people more apt at this time to pick up books on suffering because they're really struggling? For example, you might want to write a book on millennials not being able to cope with situation with problems, or millennials using social media to communicate. That's really good for us, the current situation. That's very poignant and what's on topic now, what's happening out there. You want to know your target market. Who's your target market? For me, it's people in crisis, people who are suffering. What's your primary and secondary market? Maybe perhaps your secondary market is people who know people are struggling or suffering. Everyone knows someone who's going through a hard time and might know someone who want to get them this book or your book. Whatever your market is, know your primary market and your secondary market. Does your book or manuscript appeal to this market? If so, how? This book for me worked. It worked for me to help me lift my gaze to my God when I was struggling, going through a difficult time. It works. How does it appeal to? And you get other people's endorsements and their excitement when they've read your books, their recommendations. Those are all really important for you to start marketing. You can use those in your marketing. Market positioning. Where does it fit in the market? How is this? Is it a book strictly for Christians? Is it a book for me? Is it a book strictly for Christians, or is it a book for the secular market as well? Looking at both of those, it's huge. What's your reason to believe? What's the reason to believe that this works, that your book can help people? What are your key consumer benefits? For me, it's hope. It's lifting their gaze. It's trusting in God. It's faith. It's peace. It's tranquility. Those are huge. You need to have them tangibly, and those need to come out in your development of your book, also in your marketing. What's your brand voice of your manuscript? What's the tone and manner? How do you want this? If you could picture your book, whether is it Jesus sitting down to talk to you? Is it Mr. Rogers opening up a book and sharing a children's book with you? What would be your tone and manner? Who would you picture reading your book as it's storytelling or reading it out loud? Who do you see? And what voice and manner of how they would be spoken to would be most effective? You need to think about these things as you're writing and also as you're marketing. That's very helpful for you as you're marketing this. For me, I wanted to be my voice, to keep it real, but yet biblical, but yet helpful. That's what I wanted my voice to be. Marketing, 4 Ps. These are the 4 Ps of marketing as a recovering marketing instructor. Either price, product, promotion, and place. And that all fits with your target market. Who is your target market? I can help you identify that and work with that. Excuse me. Those are all things you need to work on, also understand as you're moving forward. And I can talk a little bit more about that and for consulting, kind of help you, but it can go really in depth. You need to do that. I have a 27-page marketing plan I did for my book when I launched my publishing company. It's just something you need to consider as well. Marketing promotion. Always do a pre-launch. I do a BOGO, buy one, get one, because most people that you know will buy one copy of your book. If you do it 50% off, you've just cut your profits in half. But if you do a buy one, get one, have them bless someone else with it, guess what? You've just doubled how many people are now reading and have access to your book. Create a press release. I can help you with that as well. Run specials. It's an Easter special. Buy one, get one free. Or I'm doing a book study special. Whatever you're doing, run specials. You can communicate that in social media, through MailChimp, all those other venues or avenues that I talked about. Ask for referrals. Who do you know that might need this? Have friends tag friends on social media. Do giveaways. I'm giving away a book this week to someone. Tag someone you know is going through a hard time. I'm going to be giving away a book, or whatever you would work. Writing a children's book. Tag a teacher that could use this book, or tag a teacher that you think, or tag a parent that could use this book. And you can do giveaways. There's a great things you can do for giveaways to help you. And also Goodreads, you can do giveaways on that as well. Marketing. You make, as an author, the most income when you speak in public. When you speak in public, any opportunity you have to speak in public, my sales exponentially go up. I sell several hundred copies when I speak in public. When I don't speak, I don't sell that many books. I sell a handful of books. That's just how it is. You need to speak in public and learn how to do that. Toastmasters is a great organization, can help you. I belong to Toastmasters. They can help you with looking at how to improve speaking. You can actually try out your book and your speaking topics here. Brilliant. To help you out to become a better public speaker, because you sell more books, bottom line. I've gone 3 minutes over. I wanted to keep this at 45 minutes. But if you do have any questions or need consulting, please email me at kim@kimmclark.com or text me at 302-275-5309. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love just to help you along in your process. I'm going to open it now to questions. I am going to stop recording now, but if you have any further questions, please give me a call. God bless you and have a good day.
Thank you.
Hey, what did you think?
I think that's amazing. It's awesome.